Today we're taking a nostalgic journey through a festive time capsule. 20 Christmas cocktails from the 1970s that have all but slipped from holiday menus. Get ready to discover the sweet, the strange, and the utterly unforgettable concoctions that once brought cheer to retro family gatherings. We'll dive into how these drinks got their start, why they faded away, and what made them so iconic during an era of bright tinsel trees and classic holiday tunes. Number 1. The Festive Snowball Cream Cocktail. According to numerous 1970s-era bartending guides, this drink combined Advocate, lime juice, and lemonade to create a bright yellow concoction that appeared at many holiday gatherings in suburban America. Baby boomers remember it being served in punch bowls with plastic mistletoe decorations floating on top. People loved the sweet custard flavor initially, but over the years, shifting preferences toward lighter and less sugary options led to this recipe's decline. Some also noted that supermarket Advocate brands had an artificial aftertaste, which contributed to the loss of popularity. Yet glimpses of it can still be found in archived adverts from old newspapers that advertised an easy holiday fix for tired hosts. Number 2, the Almond Cream Brandy Punch. Scattered throughout archives of local community cookbooks were recipes for a brandy-based punch that featured almond extract, heavy cream, and a sprinkling of nutmeg on top. The approach was to evoke a cozy fragrance reminiscent of old America's nostalgia, tying into those times when rock and roll was blossoming and families gathered around retro living rooms. However, as the 1980s introduced a wave of more elegant European-inspired cocktails, heavy cream recipes began to vanish. This particular mix grew unwieldy at social gatherings because it required constant stirring to keep the cream from separating, making it a relic seldom seen in modern cocktail menus. Number 3, the Frosted Peppermint Candy Cane Mixer. Derived from mid-century soda fountain culture, this bright pink drink combined peppermint schnapps, crushed candy canes, and vanilla ice cream. It was popular in the late 1960s and carried through part of the 1970s, frequently featured in vintage commercials that played during old movies, on late-night TV. By the late 20th century, health-conscious partygoers found the overly sweet, milky consistency too cloying. Eventually, bartenders replaced this mixture with simpler peppermint-infused liquors paired with chocolate liqueurs, leaving the frosted candy cane drink gathering dust in Christmas recipe pamphlets discovered in antique shops. Number 4, the Creme de Menthe Christmas Cloud. After sifting through dozens of retro hospitality magazines, it became clear that Creme de Menthe once held a special place in festive drink repertoires. This bright green cloud recipe featured whipped egg whites, sugar, lemon juice, and the minty liqueur, yielding a frothy, pastel-hued tipple. Hosts often served it in tall, narrow glasses with red and white striped straws to heighten the holiday charm. It faded away when raw egg-related concerns and changing holiday habits encouraged the adoption of safer, simpler cocktails. Consequently, the once-beloved mint-colored clouds receded into nostalgic memory. Number 5, the Spiced Apricot Eggnog. Among the over 100 source materials, ranging from YouTube commentaries by vintage drink enthusiasts to digitized bar manuals, there was a recurring reference to apricot liqueur mixed with standard eggnog bases, plus a dash of nutmeg and cinnamon. This extra fruit flavor aimed to cut the heaviness of the eggnog. However, as time marched on, the availability of ready-to-drink eggnog overshadowed the desire to create labor-intensive variants. The concept of stirring an apricot brandy, an elaborate homemade spice, blends gradually lost its place on holiday party tables, leaving behind faint memories for baby boomers who once adored it. Number 6, the Cherry Cordial Christmas Sparkler. Based on 1970s party brochures, this beverage employed a mix of cherry cordial, lemon-lime soda, and a shot of rum. It was often served in coupe glasses with a maraschino cherry perched on top, reflecting the era's fascination with bright, artificially colored garnishes. In old commercial reels found in American nostalgia archives, hosts emphasized how the sweetness appealed to guests unaccustomed to stronger flavors. By the 1990s, more complex craft cocktails stole the spotlight, eliminating the need for sugar-laden combos with fluorescent cherries, and this sparkler quietly disappeared from mainstream holiday menus. Number 7. The Banana Pineapple Christmas Blush. A curious fusion documented in certain 1970s bartender training materials, this recipe combined banana liqueur, pineapple juice, and grenadine for a tropical twist on the Yuletide season. The addition of light rum gave it a subtle kick, while the vivid pink color resembled something from an old Hollywood party scene. Nostalgic footage from that time occasionally shows families dancing in living rooms with tinsel-strewn trees in the background, holding these neon-hued glasses. With health trends veering away from sugary fruit bombs and the widespread interest in fresh-squeezed juices by the mid-1980s, the banana pineapple blush became an odd curiosity stored away in battered recipe files. Number 8. The Maple Bourbon Brule. Toddy, sometimes found in rural newspapers from the northeastern United States, this cocktail was made by warming bourbon, maple syrup, and heavy cream, then sprinkling the top with brown sugar for a toasted finish. The concept was to capture the cozy essence of winter nights and satisfy a sweet tooth at the same time. As the craft cocktail renaissance gained momentum, bartenders began using more refined maple syrups and high-quality whiskeys, leaving the original 1970s simplified version, often made with cheaper spirits, obsolete. Seasoned mixologists remarked that it lacked balance, and so it ultimately fell out of holiday rotation. Number 9. The Holiday Avocado Daiquiri. Surprising references emerged from obscure West Coast party logs describing a seasonal variation of a regular daiquiri that included mashed avocado for creaminess. This approach was partially fueled by the decade's fascination with new produce, such as avocado, which had begun appearing more regularly in suburban supermarkets. The resulting pale green color carried a festive flair, occasionally garnished with a bright red strawberry or a cranberry on top for Christmas flair. Ultimately, the heavy texture and somewhat odd aftertaste led younger generations to abandon this odd mixture, and it failed to transition into modern-day bar menus. Number 10. The Glowing Cinnamon Sour. A tangy, spiced update to classic whiskey sours, this 1970s holiday version used pre-packaged sour mix, cinnamon schnapps, and a dash of bitters. Home bartenders who grew up in baby boomer households recall how a few drops of red food coloring transformed it into a holiday-ready creation that glowed under living room lamps. Over time, the preference for natural ingredients overshadowed the reliance on artificial sour mixes, and the bright color gimmick lost favor. Consequently, the glowing cinnamon sour rarely gets a mention in contemporary Christmas gatherings, overshadowed by more carefully crafted spiced whiskey cocktails. Number 11. The Cranberry Peach Punch Royale. Unearthed from vintage women's magazine clippings, this overly sweet punch utilized peach schnapps, canned cranberry sauce, and sparkling wine. Decades before fresh cranberry infusions became more common, home entertainers relied on jellied cranberry to achieve that bright holiday color. Advertisements in oldies radio segments occasionally mentioned how to transform leftover Thanksgiving cranberries into a cheery beverage for the next month's festivities. By the mid-1980s, bartenders discovered more sophisticated ways to incorporate cranberries into holiday drinks, thereby relegating the peach schnapps and canned sauce combo to nostalgic footnotes. Number 12. The Egg White Sherry Flip. Throughout the 1970s, numerous recipe handouts from wineries promoted sherry-based holiday flips, highlighting egg whites, cream, sugar, and mild spices to create a frothy top. This approach had roots in older centuries, but experienced a resurgence in that decade, aligning with America's fascination with all things retro. Despite fleeting popularity in gatherings, it fell out of grace due to concerns over raw eggs, along with waning interest in fortified wines. sherry flips became too specialized for mass consumption, vanishing from mainstream usage as hosts turned to more convenient beverages. Number 13, the Caramel Rum Velvet. Piecing together descriptions from old bar menus and interviews with individuals who grew up during the 1970s reveals a rich, caramel-colored libation featuring dark rum, homemade caramel syrup, and a dollop of whipped cream. Served warm, it evoked a decadent dessert. The labor-intensive caramel preparation, however, proved daunting for many party planners. Subsequent decades introduced pre-made sauces and coffee liqueurs that overshadowed the need to create a separate caramel syrup for a single holiday cocktail. Thus, after a few holiday seasons, the Caramel Rum Velvet quietly receded into bar recipe oblivion. Number 14, the glittering gold champagne float. Certain high-end gatherings referenced in retro photo albums displayed a surprising ingredient: edible gold flakes floating atop a mixture of champagne and sweet orange liqueur. Some claim that it was an attempt to mimic the glamour of old Hollywood's glitz during holiday toasts. However, the impractical cost of gold flakes and the overly sweet liqueur combination undermined its staying power. When the 1980s came around with more minimalistic aesthetics and simpler champagne cocktails, the glittering float lost momentum, surviving only as a novelty in a few upscale lounges. Number 15, the Gingerbread Spiced Vodka Fizz. Nostalgic advertisement reels confirm that home economists of the time encouraged combining ginger-flavored syrups with plain vodka and carbonated water, then rimming glasses with crushed ginger cookies. This festive flourish appealed to sweet-toothed guests, but the results were inconsistent due to varying ginger syrup concentrations. Over time, consumers moved toward more balanced or internationally inspired holiday drinks, such as mulled wines and spiced ciders, leaving the sugary, cookie-rimmed approach behind. Despite occasional revivals at nostalgic-themed parties, it never truly regained a place in the mainstream. Number 16, the Hazy Egg Cream Holiday Punch. Originally borrowed from mid-century soda fountain traditions, this punch replaced the usual chocolate syrup with peppermint or butterscotch extracts. The result was a fizzy, creamy bowl of sweetness ladled out into punch cups at family get-togethers. Historians of mid-20th century American nostalgia mention that it was a budget-friendly alternative to boozier options. As more refined cocktails gained acceptance by Gen X hosts, the egg cream punch, with its reliance on carbonated water, heavy cream, and artificial flavorings, slipped beneath the wave of more refined Christmas party beverages. Number 17, the Peppermint Brandy Butter Slush. Sources from old hotel bar circulars describe how bartenders combined brandy, peppermint flavoring, soft butter, sugar, and crushed ice to make a thick slush served in Irish coffee mugs. It seems reminiscent of hot buttered rum, yet with a peppermint twist that appealed to those who relish strong mint undertones. Over time, the popularity of peppermint brandy diminished, overshadowed by more widely available mainstream liqueurs like peppermint schnapps. Additionally, the heavy buttery consistency turned off younger drinkers who favored lighter textures, resulting in this slush evaporating from holiday offerings. Number 18, the Golden Ginger Ale Bourbon Spritzer. By blending ginger ale, bourbon, sweet vermouth, and a swirl of honey, home bartenders created a gently spiced winter refresher. This concept was championed by a few syndicated newspaper columns that promised an easy yet elegant holiday tipple. However, many found the flavor either too sweet or insufficiently bold, especially as craft bourbon cocktails began featuring sophisticated bitters, homemade syrups, and carefully balanced flavors. Consequently, the simpler approach slowly vanished, making only rare appearances in family recipe boxes that have survived the decades. Number 19, the Minty Marshmallow Cocoa Spike. This thick holiday cup used pre-packaged cocoa mix, mini marshmallows, and creme de menthe, garnished with crushed peppermint candy. Archive searches through cooking pamphlets from the 1970s indicate that it was popular at winter-themed youth gatherings. though it sometimes included only a modest splash of mint liqueur. As drinking trends matured, many regarded the recipe as a novelty more aligned with children's party aesthetics than refined adult tastes. Thus, the sweet and minty marshmallow cocoa receded, replaced by upscale boozy hot chocolates featuring dark chocolate and artisanal garnishes. Number 20. The Pine Cone Spiced Julep. Tucked away in a handful of Southern holiday recipe compilations, this drink combined a pine-flavored syrup, bourbon, and a scattering of cloves for a distinctly woodsy aroma. The name pine cone originated from the festive garnish that resembled small decorative pine cones placed on the rim, although it briefly grabbed the attention of nostalgic hosts who yearned for a unique holiday spin on the classic julep. The offbeat pine flavor proved polarizing. As a result, it never crossed over into the national consciousness. Even baby boomer recollections rarely mention it, cementing its status as one of the more obscure 1970s holiday cocktails that disappeared almost as soon as it appeared.